I'm sorry, what?
You just kind of stand up and wait until Sandra stops. What's the date? November 17th, 18th, and 19th.
I've looked that up 6 times.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is David Howell. For people who don't know me, I and my wife Suzanne will be the worship associates for today. I get to do the easy part and she gets to do the hard part. That's the way such things work. How nice to see you all. A beautiful fall day. And happy to be here together for a special symbolic thing that we do. It's very nice to be a part of this. So, Suzanne will give you necessary announcements.
Yeah. Well, welcome. We are a church that welcomes all who want to covenant with us. A diversity of race, gender, gender orientation, theological belief. That sets us apart. You are welcome. We're glad you're here. We'll be glad to talk with you. And David mentioned this is very special because we are dedicating a new chalice. And it's also our once-a-month special because it is Potluck Sunday. And if you brought food, great. If you didn't, there's always more than we can possibly eat. So please stay and join us. There's announcements in your order of service. And in addition, there are a couple of other things. One is that the spiritual practices, building your own theology, will be starting kind of partway through potluck. Get your food, sit down, but then convene back in RE. Other one, my favorite, the middle of November, 17th, 18th, and 19th is our retreat. And this year it will be out at Rock Island State Park. There's no communal facility. We have reserved the cabins, and there are still a couple of spaces in cabins. You also, of course, could drive out for the day, or you could camp. But if you're interested in joining one of the groups in a cabin, talk to Carol during potluck. And let's see. Any other announcements?
I don't think so. Good morning, everyone. It is awesome to see you all here this morning. I'm Reverend Carol Bodeau. I'm privileged to serve here as minister. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I want to extend a special welcome this morning to those who are with us virtually. It's good to have you here as well. We know that those of us who attend online are as much a part of this community as the people who are physically here in this room. Whether you are here at this particular moment or at some point in the future, we want to know that you are welcome as well. As Suzanne and David mentioned, today is a special service. We are dedicating our new chalice. Isn't that cool? Isn't that gorgeous? So it's exciting. Again, everyone is welcome to attend potluck. One other thing I wanted to just remind you of is that on the fourth Sunday of the month, we have moved our Earth Church gatherings to the fourth Sunday of the month. So the last Sunday of the month at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is when Earth Church is happening. So there's a lot going on, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with you in this beautiful autumn weather. So as I invite the bowl to sound this morning, I invite you to call yourself fully present. The world is a world filled with joys and sorrows, with excitement and challenges, possibilities right alongside the problems. So as the bowl sounds for us this morning, see if you can bring yourself fully present in this room, into this community, into your body, and into the moment that we are gifted with together. Go ahead.
Yes. A flame within a chalice is a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. Many of our congregations kindle a flaming chalice in gatherings and worships and feature the chalice symbol prominently.
This is life as a couple. He has to raise it, I have to lower it. It goes up and down, and Carol has it in the middle. Okay. Hans Deutsch, an Austrian artist, first brought together the chalice and the flame as a Unitarian symbol during his work with the Unitarian Service Committee during World War II. To Deutsch, the image had connotations of sacrifice and love. Unitarian Universalists today have many different interpretations of the flaming chalice, including the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope.
Today, we are dedicating our new chalice here at West Side. This chalice was crafted by metal artist Ryan Schmidt of Middy's Metal Art. Ryan learned his craft in Cumberland Gap, Tennessee, and managed his original metal art studio there until just a few years ago when he moved to Kansas City, Missouri. This particular chalice was handcrafted by Ryan for West Side. And so first, we just want to say we're incredibly grateful that he has been taken on the challenge of making UU chalices for UU congregations. So thank you to Ryan for his incredible work.
As we light this chalice for the first time today, we invite you to join in the words printed in your order of service. We, the three of us, will read the words in italics, and you will read the words in bold print.
Hold the microphone for us. Let's just make this easy.
Okay. We light this chalice as a symbol of our commitment to Unitarian Universalism.
May it burn clear and bright, a beacon to the community. We light this chalice as a symbol of our passion for truth and justice.
We light this chalice to spark our passion for transformation, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
May it spark healing and positive change both within and outside these walls.
We light this chalice to remind us that the warmth of community is always available, even in the most difficult times.
We carry its warmth with us wherever we leave this place. As Suzanne lights the actual chalice, we ask this: May the chalice in this sanctuary be a constant reminder of the light that lives within each and every one of us. The light of hope, of promise, and of the human spirit at its best. May we hold these values in our heart and carry them with us wherever we go. Now, another UU tradition around lighting chalices is a song that you have all heard and that you don't really need the words to, but they're going to be scrolling for us so that you can see them. So hopefully, there they are, they're coming up. Okay, let's just have a big yay for our projector, for Brad, and for the cool new chalice and the work of all the committees that's been making these things happen. So we are going to sing this little light of mine. I am going to ask you if you are willing and able to stand up. I'll be playing. The congregation or the choir will stand up here and help lead you in enthusiasm. Their job is going to be actually to get you to move. So choir, your job is less to do with leading the singing than with the enthusiasm. Okay? So we're going to sing this little light of mine. Thank you all for doing that. I mean, it's sort of a kind of cute, silly little song, but it actually has a really important message. I know that for many of us, the last week has been a little bumpy at best. It has been a rough week, even as we're celebrating cool things here in this building and in the Knoxville area. I know that most of us are pretty happy the weather is cooling down and the beautiful fall days are arriving. There's still a lot going on in the world that needs our light. Usually after a natural disaster, the days that follow the event begin slowly but surely to give us a sense that things are being put to right, that recovery is happening and things are starting to get back to normal, and that to some extent has been happening here. I will say that for the most part, what's happened in the last week is just more and more bad news about how rough things are for the people of Far East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. With each passing day, we are learning more about the devastation to the communities that are our immediate neighbors. And a lot of people in this room and in our families and in our neighborhoods have been directly impacted by the impact of Hurricane Helene. So, we come together in this community to celebrate, but we also come together to bring our energies together to make a difference. So I want to do some thank yous first and foremost. I want to say a big thank you to everyone in this community who has helped out in any way over the last week. So thank you to those of you who have made financial contributions to relief agencies. Those are still very much needed. We will continue to give you information about that. Thank you to those of you who have donated supplies, much needed supplies, which continue to be needed. Thank you to those of you who have actually gotten out and collected and organized supplies, and some of you who have courageously traveled into the impacted areas to deliver supplies. Thank you. I want to thank every one of you who has prayed or meditated or taken the news seriously or reached out to friends or family or otherwise devoted any kind of caring attention or energy to the impacted communities. I want to thank you all for whatever ways you have in the last few days shared your light, just a little bit of light, with those around us who are experiencing darkness. That is actually the whole point of the Unitarian Universalist chalice. It is meant to represent our willingness to shine light when and where it's needed. It reminds us, first and foremost, that we have some light, right? That we have light inside ourselves worth sharing, maybe just a little small gesture, maybe a big gesture, but every little bit matters. Sometimes, when we listen to NPR, for example, we can feel helpless or hopeless. The news can be kind of a bummer. This symbol is meant to remind us that no matter what is happening, that little bit of light that we have as individuals and that we have as a community can go a long way. It doesn't matter whether that's a text to a friend saying, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" Or whether it's a big donation of financial resources. All of those are very much needed. Last week, for those of you who heard the service last week, I talked about how important it is to let in the suffering and struggles of the world. How easy it is to feel detached, compassionate but detached. But how important it is to let things be a little more personal, to let them into our hearts and to have a real awareness of other people's experiences and to be moved by them. I talked about how when we get past that sort of distancing, the compartmentalizing, that is a survival response, a natural response that we can't help. When we get past that, we are often more willing to take bigger risks. When it becomes personal, it gets a little bit easier to put ourselves out there. Our new chalice is meant to be a reminder of a couple of things. First, it's meant to be a reminder that we as a community do this. And second, I think it's cool that it's a bigger chalice than we've had. I'm going to take that symbol for real, for serious. Here's a little more detailed info about the origin of the chalice symbol. This detailed info was written by Dan Hotchkiss for a 2001 article in the UU World magazine, which is the publication of our denomination. So this is what Dan said about it. The Reverend Dr. Charles Rind Joy was commissioner for Europe of the newly founded Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. This is at the beginning of World War II. So we had a new now Unitarianism and Universalism were separate denominations at that time. They were not merged, they were separate. And the Unitarians had created a service committee, and they had established some offices in Europe in response to the troubles that were happening. And Reverend Joy was established as the commissioner for Europe for this Unitarian Service Committee. And he played a big part in the creation of this symbol. In 1940, he was sent to Lisbon, Portugal, to direct the office there of the Unitarian Service Committee. Lisbon at that time was the only open port in Europe. And it was the preferred destination for millions of refugees trying to escape the Nazi regime. The Unitarian Service Committee took special interest in helping artists and intellectuals and dissidents escape the Nazis. So the USC, the Service Committee, which was sort of the earliest version of what is now the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, right? That organization was helping people escape out of places in Europe where it was very dangerous to be. He worked with people from all walks of life, but he was involved with a lot of scientists, authors, politicians, etc. Now, many of those refugees fleeing those areas of course, they didn't have identification papers as they fled to cross the borders. So the Lisbon office, where a lot of these refugees were coming, concentrated especially on helping them to obtain replacement papers. And here's what they did, clever, inventive, innovative Unitarians that they were. They decided to create their own. They said, we're going to make up papers for y'all. We're going to do that. They decided to issue travel documents. And they wanted them to look official. They needed an official seal. So, Reverend Joy asked Hans Deutsch, who was an Austrian refugee, he was actually a refugee who had escaped to Lisbon, he asked him to create a symbol that would be the seal of these newly created travel papers for refugees escaping the Nazi regime. So that's actually the origin of this symbol. Our chalice symbol was created in the midst of incredible danger and risk. And the Unitarian Service Committee, in fact, became an important organization managing couriers and agents and people doing all kinds of things, taking incredible risks to help those who were in desperate need. And it seems fitting to me that we're dedicating this new, larger chalice for our sanctuary and our congregation in the midst of a very challenging time. It's challenging locally, it's challenging nationally, it's challenging globally. I try to take inspiration from the history of this symbol. The courage that those ancestors of our tradition had during World War II serves as a reminder to us that we can make a difference in seemingly impossible circumstances. Combining our little individual lights inside of us, they make a much bigger flame. They contribute to the warmth in the world. They contribute to the fire of commitment and the passion. But there is another side to all of this that we don't talk about as much. Any time that we allow that fire of our inner passions, our spark, our gifts, anytime we allow that to grow into courageous action, anytime we allow ourselves to live into it, not only does that make a change outside of us in the world around us, but it also changes us on the inside. Think about that for a minute. Fire is an agent of transformation, which for any of you who have seen the jet pig thing, right? We've been talking about jet pig. Jet pig is our new sort of acronym for the values of Unitarian Universalism: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. T, transformation. Fire is an agent of transformation. Think about it. It transforms food that might be unsafe and inedible to something nourishing and life-giving. It transforms, say, cold wood into heat life-saving heat. Its energy can change water to steam and generate all kinds of chemical reactions that transform things into completely new forms. And like that, choosing to lean into, to engage, really engage, to feed the fire within us, that transforms us. So I want you to think about a moment in your life. It doesn't matter how big a moment or how small a moment. Think about a time when you've been willing to take a risk, to do something, to live your values or your passion. Think about a time when you've maybe gone outside your comfort zone, when you have been willing to say, I really want to do this. I'm kind of scared to do this. I'm not sure. Oh, my logic brain is saying, don't do it. But that fire was strong enough that you decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Might just be asking someone out on a date. That could change your life. Might be changing a career, might be taking a risk to support someone in a place or a situation that's dangerous to you. Anyone who has ever taken a real risk in the service of life would tell you that we cannot help but be changed by that spark inside of us. I can't imagine how much courage it took those World War II Unitarians to defy the Nazis. I literally cannot imagine what it would be like. Put yourself in their shoes here from the perspective we have of history. I cannot imagine how much courage it takes first responders to do the work they do. Watching the news this week has been devastating. I cannot imagine the courage of neighbors rescuing their neighbors from floodwaters, of workers putting themselves in danger to make roads and bridges safe again. I cannot imagine the courage of children helping to clear limbs off their houses. The courage of the communities around us right now is incredible. Contrast that with, I'll just say my own experience. Many of you know that my son and his husband were in Asheville during the storm, and I knew they were okay, and I was okay, and I was pretty much non-functional for days. And when I talked to my son-in-law's mother, she was like, we can't sleep, we can't function. It's so easy to become completely non-functional in the face of danger and risk. The courage it takes to get beyond our own fear, beyond our own pain, is something that we need to have sparked, right? Sometimes the spark has to be pretty strong to get us out of that frozen place, right? There's a popular reading in our hymnal that some of you will have heard. If you've, in the back of the gray hymnal, sometimes we read things that are cool quotes when we're lighting our chalice or doing other things. And there's a popular reading in our hymnal. It goes like this. Some of you will recognize it. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Now, that quote in our hymnal is attributed to Albert Schweitzer, and interestingly enough, Reverend Joy, who I just was talking about, the commissioner to Europe for the Unitarian Service Committee, he actually was a big fan of Schweitzer's. He actually was one of the translators of Albert Schweitzer's work, not the one who translated what's in our hymnal, but he was a big follower of Schweitzer. Well, interestingly enough, I was doing a little research for today about that quote, and another minister, a contemporary UU minister, Reverend Dan Harper, has an online series, a blog about UU history and theology. And he tells us something interesting about that particular quote. that particular version that we have in our hymnal of Schweitzer's words is incomplete. Now, remember, the original was in German, so it had to be translated, right? We don't actually know who gave us the translation that's in our hymnal. But it's been translated many, many, many times. And Dan Harper says, the original is a little bit different than that. The original translation, the first translation into English, is a little bit different than that. And he says, even more important, there's another line that comes after the ones in our hymnal that's really important. So this is how Dan Harper describes that quote in combining the original translation with his understanding of it. Sometimes our light goes out, but is blown into flame by another human being. Each of us owes deepest thanks to those who have rekindled this light. If we had before us those who have thus been a blessing to us and could tell them how it came about, they would be amazed to learn what passed over from their life into ours. So I like this version of the quote because it gives us a much more immediate and felt appreciation for what I'm going to call transformative exchange. I like that it got very quiet there all of a sudden. I'll repeat the phrase. Transformative exchange. Think for a moment about someone who blew the spark in your heart back into fire when you needed it awakened. A teacher, a friend, a partner, maybe a public figure. Think of a time when you felt your light was maybe almost or all the way out. Maybe you weren't even sure it could come back. And something or somebody relit that spark. And now I ask you this, didn't that change you from the way you were before the spark went out, before the fire went out? That's not just getting things back to the way they were kind of a situation. When someone takes the risk to help us come back to life, to reignite the spark of our zest for life, our hope, our passion, our joy, we don't just go back to the way we were. We are forever changed. And think of times when you might have done that for someone else. Again, we are forever changed. Every single person who asked me about my family last week, every single friend who said, I'm thinking about you, checked to see if I was okay, checked again to see if they were okay. Every single one of them changed me. My willingness to admit that I needed others to keep the spark in me going was important. My willingness to have transformative exchanges was important. And their willingness to just, that littlest spark, right? That changed our relationships. It changed the way we understood each other. Yesterday, I attended an online gathering that was profound. It was a gathering hosted by a spiritual teacher who lives in Green Mountain, which is just outside of Asheville. It's one of the hardest hit communities from the hurricane. And he has an online community of people that he teaches, he and his wife. And they had asked one of their assistants to lead a gathering, a prayer gathering, a meditation gathering, to just send good energy to the region. There were about 50 or 60 people on that call. There were people from all over Europe, people from all over the United States, people from Central and South America, people from Africa, people from Australia and New Zealand. There were people from all over the world who got together for 1 hour online to let their lights gather to send light to our neighbors here. And it changed me. It changed them. You know, many of these people were people who reached out just to say, gosh, we want to be supportive. But then those of us closer to the region were invited to tell our stories. And they were powerful stories. And people were changed by them. That seems like a small thing. But one of the things I said to that gathering was, I said, please hold those of you who aren't here, please hold those of us who are here in your hearts, because we're going to get tired. The work of the world in front of us is not a quick fix. We are coming into election season. We are actually kind of right in the depths of it. I listened to NPR this morning, and the stories about Israel, Lebanon, Gaza, they were not pleasant stories. We are in a world where it's easy to get really tired, and we can help keep each other sparked and alive. So, the flaming chalice represents many things. The warmth of community when we need comfort. When we are tired and exhausted and not so sure we got the energy and we need to be comforted, when we need solace. It represents curiosity in the light of seeking, the light of wanting to shed truth in places where we're not so sure the truth is being seen. It also represents fierce courage, determined commitment, and passionate engagement. Now, that can express itself in a lot of ways. Not everybody can be on the front lines of any challenge that we're facing. That fire might express itself in the form of sharing information, putting a post on social media. It might express itself as providing for material needs, ensuring that there's fuel, all these great metaphors with fire, right? Fuel, warmth. That might be a kind word or a hug or a bright smile. Might be a sparkling joke that lifts somebody up for a minute out of more serious matters. However we do it, those lights really need to keep shining in the world. We all know that the coming season will be filled with uncertainty and anxiety, not just because of the hurricane, but because of all the things going on. So we can't really afford to not shine our lights. And at the same time, the shining of the lights also can help us remember things like beautiful fall colors. I love that we have our chalice flame right at the time when the trees are hopefully gonna flame up a little bit with some beautiful colors, right? The cool beauty of a fall day, the friendship and fellowship of a potluck. I don't know about anybody else, but already the stores are starting. We got Halloween, we got Thanksgiving, we got this whole season of holidays ahead of us. All those things are part of this world we live in together. There are many, many ways we can shine our light. And there are many ways we can receive light from this community. So what I would invite you to do is choose. Every day. Choose every single day how that day you want to let your light shine. Maybe on one given day, I'll give you an example of my low days. On my low days, my light shines under a fuzzy blanket where the cat and the dog can lay on top of me. And they are comforted and they are happy. That's an okay way to shine your light. Or your light might be shining out in the wider world. It might be shining by helping in this community. It might be shining by cleaning up after potluck. Every day you have that light inside of you. And if you need help reigniting the flame, if it's one of those days for you, please know that this community is here. This is a place where we keep the flame burning together. So every time that we light this chalice, we need to remember that that flame is burning when we're not in the room. There are many ways that we shine our light in the world. So we're going to talk about some of the opportunities you have to shine your light in the world. We are continuing to post about the ways that or resources are being gathered for the those most impacted by Helene. We will continue to post that on our social media. New efforts are being organized now to sort of longer term to replace the shorter term ones. So if you happen to know, so if there's anybody in the room right now who happens to know about anything we need to know about, I'm going to invite you to tell us about it right now. Mary Frances, is the mutual aid organization still? Come on up and tell us what we need to know.
Okay, I want to say, first of all, thank you very much to everyone who donated goods, money, positive thoughts and spirits, vibes, whichever, to the Mutual Aid Fund. The Mutual Aid is switching gear. At this point, we're okay on donations. In fact, to the point where the communities are overwhelmed with donations. And in fact, we don't need more stuff. We need people to help. Yay! Yeah, that's awesome. We need people to help with the stuff. In fact, this is one thing I am encouraging, and Carol spoke about this last week. Part of helping people is actually listening to what people want and then doing that. So you may feel really good loading up your car with bottled water, but guess what? There are people doing that and then just driving around because no one can take it. So what we really need are volunteers willing to go up to some of the different distribution centers and to sort things out. So, it may not make you feel as heroic to be sorting diapers, but that's what's needed right now. So I'm going to probably go up to Unicoi County High School tomorrow, and I'll put on the Facebook group if anyone wants to come with me to help with the distribution of the goods. And also, I'll post more about this as well as things come up. At first, we didn't have a way to actually get money to people just because the internet was down, and the internet's down, the ATM's down, money wasn't going to do much good, but at the point, we've got internet going, not me personally, I don't run the internet, but financial aid is going to start being helpful, and they're all kind of try to vet some different groups because there's a whole lot of different stuff going on right now. So it's a changing thing day by day. And as Carol said, we are kind of switching gears to longer term. Knoxville Flood Mutual Aid is kind of winding down, and because said, I don't want to say mission accomplished because it's not. It's an ongoing thing, but mission changed. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mary Frances. And thanks, Mary Frances, for being. And also, Helen, do you know what's happening at Tennessee Valley? Tell us about Tennessee Valley. So Helen was working with the volunteer efforts at Tennessee Valley UU.
Yes, I am not in charge of anything. I just went to help, and actually so did Henry. Henry, do you want to come tell them what you did at Tennessee Valley the other day? Because Henry honestly did more than I did.
Okay, come tell us.
Really quick, and then I will share about.
Well, I actually got like all the donations inside and helped people load up to get them to people.
Awesome. And what did we start the other day, you and me?
We started a mutual aid fund.
And how do people find it?
How do we get to it? How can people find it?
Through our website.
Yes, so we recognize that
HB Rivers LLC.
We recognize that barrier of getting money to people, and also that sometimes people don't have the credit or the funds on hand to go drop $2,000 on protein bars to go support our neighbors. So I've set up a way to give directly to local mutual aid through my website, and I've also started a Facebook page where we're going to do some education around mutual aid and community organizing for people who want to get involved but might not know how to yet. So I'll share all that information. And Tennessee Valley took in, I don't even know. We were there for a couple 3-hour shifts, and in the time that we were there both times, the whole room that we were using filled and emptied, and several times people pulled up to deliver things and we didn't even bring the donations inside. We just put them in another car and sent them. So there are so many big formal organizations out there like FEMA and Red Cross doing all the big stuff too, but the local mutual aid organizations are the ones physically driving into these communities to get supplies to people. So it's really good stuff.
So we will be keeping you posted, okay? Keep an eye on our website, on our e-news, on our social media, on our Facebook groups and things like that. About as things change, we will try to keep you all educated and informed about what the next thing is that needs resources. And again, Mary Frances, if anybody virtually wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that for our virtual people? Come back to the microphone. Come back.
I'm trying to be mindful. I had to take training for, work, and they said, you always use the microphone. So the best way to get hold of me is you can use Facebook. I'm just Mary Frances Milligan. That's who I am. Or you can email me. My email is mf, like Mary Frances, not the other thing.
For those of you who are able to physically go and actually help at the distribution centers, that's a good resource. So there are lots of things you can do in this immediate situation. There are also other things we'll be doing to shine our light in the world. We have ongoing projects next week. You're going to be hearing about an organization called Awesome Found that we are going to be learning about and supporting for the next few months. And our Green Sanctuary team is ongoing with their efforts. So I think Yetta has a Green Sanctuary moment for us to give us some info about that work.
Thank you, Carol. Hello, everybody. So there's not been a hurricane in this region before, and we're hearing that the reason that we're having them is because of climate change and the warming of the ocean. So that's a big concern, and a lot of people aren't insured for flooding because we haven't had them here before. So one of the things we're doing in the Green Sanctuary Committee is trying to find ways to reduce our carbon footprint. One of those ways is by trying to maintain our wetlands, and there was a bill recently that some of us wrote in to ask the Tennessee legislature not to allow development on half of the wetlands in this state, and apparently that has been tabled for the time being.
Awesome. Yay!
Another thing that we're doing is we're trying to reduce our intake of plastic because we know that recycling doesn't really work, or there's no market for it. So we're going to have a plastic-free week, which is an experiment, and we don't expect to be 100% successful, but this is kind of an educational program, and I have some sheets at the back of the sanctuary that I hope you will pick up. And the idea is that the first week of November, everybody that is interested will take one of these sheets and look at some of the ideas on here for reducing your plastic intake, because plastic is made out of petroleum products and therefore contributes to climate change. And then we'll collect these at the end of that time and just share our experiences and see what worked and what didn't work, and see whether you have any new suggestions. And finally, I just want to say that I have some black-eyed Susans outside that I'm willing to share with anybody who's interested in growing perennials.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Action and beauty all together. It's a great combination. Oh, and thank you to the Green Sanctuary team for all the things the Green Sanctuary team is doing, because that's a great challenge to all of us. The first week in November, plastic-free. We'll be announcing that over and over and over. I see your faces. Start prepping yourselves now. We also got to think about that for our organization, for the institution. What does that mean for West Side board members? Think about that for the October board meeting. What does it mean to go plastic-free for a week or a month? A year. I heard that, Henry. A year. A year. All right, there are so many ways we can shine our lights. We're going to sing one more song together. Singing is another way that you can shine your light in the world. How many of us use music in challenging or dark times to lift our spirits? Right? It's essential, right? So now the way we're going to do this song, first I'm going to ask the choir to get up here in front, because again, they're meant to spark your inspirational energy, okay? We're going to do this a cool way this time. So for those of you who are with us virtually, I believe you're going to be able to stream this song. Like there's a link, you can stream it. For those of us in this room, there's going to be words up there. We're going to listen to the composer of this song, Fire of Commitment. You can open up your hymnals to 1028. And that song was composed by Jason Shelton. So we're listening to a recording of Jason singing it with a choir. He's going to sing the first verse. We're all going to listen to him sing the first verse just so we get the melody. And then the choir is going to help us sing the second and the third verse. Yes, we absolutely can do that. Alice, thank you for that reminder. Alice said, let's also remember the needs of the animal shelters and the animals that are displaced and needing help. At UT Vet School, they're collecting food for animals. Okay, big sign, yeah?
They're looking for fosters that are already
Okay. Okay, they're also looking for foster families for animals that are already in the shelters, they're already safe, and they've already been checked health-wise, but they need families, so huge issue. So I'm going to invite you to stand up. I say it every time, you do not have to hold hands. You are welcome to hold your own hand. But if you would like to hold hands, so, okay, here we're moving. Sorry, we're moving. Let's connect somewhere. Let's go all the way over here. Okay. 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 No, okay, here, grab my elbow. Okay. Okay. All right. So the fire of commitment, and the fire of commitment sets our minds and soul ablaze. Our hunger and our passion lead to call us on our way. We live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, and our promise finds fulfillment, so our future can begin. That's transformative exchange. That's when we are willing to share the fire inside of us, and when we are willing to bring it into the world or receive the fire of someone else. Things can happen that otherwise would be impossible. So I invite you to go into this week and into this season with all its beauty and all its challenges, knowing that the fire inside of you is enough and that you can always share it with other people in a way that will spark them and also bring them warmth and comfort. Though we extinguish the flame of our chalice each week, the warmth of community, the light of seeking for truth and justice, and the fire of commitment to our values goes with us in our hearts and minds wherever we go. Go in peace, go in passion.